Okay, hello everyone. I'm Aurel, the current Director of Membership and Development for Conference. Will be the host for today's podcast. Nice to meet you. So before we begin, please introduce yourself one by one, each of you. And every time someone's introduce themselves, please say hi to them. Okay? Okay, maybe we can start from Nathan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nathan. I am from Hong Kong. I'm currently studying at the Chinese University of Hong Kong, and I'm in year two. Currently within AMSA, I'm the regional chairperson for AMSA Hong Kong.
Hello, Nathan.
Hi, Nathan.
Hi, Nathan.
Okay, Nathan, choose someone, please, to introduce.
Maybe Daniel could go next.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is Daniel. I'm from Australia, and I'm currently in my second last year at Melbourne Uni. And within Australia, I'm the RC for AMSA Australia. Nice to meet everyone.
Hi, Daniel.
Hello, Danielle.
Hello, Daniel.
Okay, and lastly, we have Mahocca Carlo, please.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carlo, and I'm currently the regional chairperson for AMSA Indonesia 2024, and I'm currently at my mid-second year of my medical student life. So nice to meet you all, guys.
Hi, Carlo.
Hello, Carlo.
Hey,
Okay,
Carlo.
since we have already known each other, let's move into our very first question. So why did you decide to participate in AMSA International Conference? Maybe any of you want to go first?
Okay, sure. Okay, so for me, my first AMSA International Conference was AMSC 2023 in Taiwan. The reason I wanted to join that was mostly just so I could get a bit of international exposure. Like I went in knowing that I would get a chance to meet medical students from across Asia. And it's pretty much that. Like I didn't really have too many other reasons for joining. The simple reason of just being able to meet other people was enough for me to go to this conference. And it was definitely one of the best decisions I made last year for sure.
Wow, actually, it's kind of similar to me. So how about the other of you? Oh, Daniel.
Oh, sorry. I'll just jump in. Yeah, my first conference was also AMSC last year in Taiwan. So I wanted to go to present some research, which I was able to with a couple other delegates from Australia. So it was a really good experience actually trying to prepare the systematic review and then presenting in front of all the delegates as well. And on top of that, it was a really great experience meeting new people as well. So much so that we ended up going back to EAMSC this year for Singapore. So I didn't present any research this time around, but it was purely just to meet other people. And yeah, it was a really good experience.
And last, let's hear from Carlo.
Okay, so I think it's because since in Indonesia, we always look around of other medical students from nationally. So it's really amazing to see things from internationally. So my first conference was at AMSI 2023 Taiwan, where the benefits of going into not only AMSI but also EMC, we don't only get the benefits of knowing each other internationally, but we also know the cultures of maybe the medical student cultures around the world, around Asia, and that is something that's very amazing for us as medical students because it's very exclusive for us for AMSA, and I think it's something that people have to experience for especially for members of AMSA.
Oh, that's a great point. And maybe AMSC in Taiwan is of our first AMSA International Conference because it also applies to me. And maybe moving to our next question, what was the most interesting part in AMSA International Conference? Maybe you have something to share, something that you find out that, wow, it's really interesting. You have?
I think I'll go first. I think for me, what's so interesting in international conferences is not only that we get to feel the friendship around there, but we also get to see on how does things run on there academically. For example, like we get to see or we get to participate in the competitions, the academic competitions of AMSA. For example, as we know, like scientific papers, also even scientific posters, or even public posters that can be a very beneficial knowledge, not only for us as RCs, but also for our members too. So it's very interesting in there.
How about you guys? Do you have something interesting that you find out? Wow, that's really cool.
I think the highlight for me in terms of these conferences, obviously the academic side is very like we learn a lot of things depending on the theme of the conference. But I think personally the most memorable part would for sure just be exploring the destination that we go to. So for example, for like Taiwan, it was, going to the night markets, sometimes exploring the nightlife, like their culture in terms of like enjoying karaoke, the food, stuff like that. And then same for Singapore. Same goes for Singapore and AMSC 2024. And just getting that exposure and learning more about the world that we live in is something that's really special to me, I think.
Yeah, same here. I found it super interesting just being able to learn about other countries' cultures and also meeting everyone else as well. Like I found it really interesting just how friendly and welcoming everyone else was. Because honestly speaking, I thought it would be a little bit daunting, like trying to meet and socialize with like overseas students. But yeah, it was really interesting to me that everyone was so friendly and welcoming in the end.
Okay, that's so cool. And maybe what are the benefits you found in AMSA International Conferences? Something that most beneficial for you. Do you have?
Yeah, so like I mentioned before, I attended Taiwan last year to present research. So yeah, in terms of benefits, I found that to be a super important experience because now heading into my second last year, like everyone in my course needs to do research as well. So having that experience to set me up for it was definitely beneficial. But also all the connections you make as well. Like I'm still talking very regularly to a lot of friends I made in Taiwan. So you get a lot of long-lasting connections and friendships. And yeah, I'd say those are the two main benefits there.
I think like on top of what Daniel just mentioned in terms of um like meeting people and staying connected with the people that you meet, I think it's also just simply putting yourself out there. Like I myself, I don't know about Daniel or Carlo, but I myself, I'm probably on the more shyer side. Maybe it's like at first it's harder for me to get to know people or like hold a conversation with someone I don't know very well. But attending these conferences definitely helped in terms of, the confidence and also just saying hi to people, introducing myself, learning more about them, sharing a bit about myself, and these interactions and friendships and relationships that you make are really valuable to me. So I think this is something that you definitely pick up from going to these conferences.
And also for me, I think it's simply three words: knowledge, action, and friendship. There are so many things that we get in international conferences. Knowledge-wise, we get to know about medicine through lectures or even academic competitions. Action, we also get to the community service programs that is very implementative for us as medical students, because we as medical students, we don't just get the knowledge from our medical school, from our universities, but we also give it to the people who actually need it. So we give educations about public health, or even in AMSA 2003 Taiwan, we also give about public health. Sorry, it's geriatric, and also there's friendship. In friendship philosophy, we also get to feel get to know each other through maybe the cultural booth or cultural performances. That is very much amazing for us as delegates. So yeah, that's from my side.
Oh my God, thank you for your sharing. And maybe because a lot of us talk about to make a new friendship, to gain some new friends, maybe you have some advice on how to make an approach to gain some friends in a conference, since everyone are so friendly. So do you have any tips or trick how to make a new friends?
I'm actually same with Nathan. Actually, I'm on the shyer side, so I'm actually not very much. Um, I before actually getting to know new people isn't actually my hobby, but through this international conference, I tried to get to know a lot of people, new people. So I have to try to break that barrier. And then when I have broken that barrier, I think it gets much easier for me to get to know people. And I think the one that helps me to break that barrier is through international conferences like this. So yeah, I think Nathan and I also have other inputs or ideas that can be answered.
I think something that worked for me in terms of overcoming this sort of like shyness is uh just having the realization or like the understanding that like especially at these conferences, everyone around you comes from like a different background, has their own experiences, their own countries, their own cultures, and like intrinsically that is something that interests me a lot. Like just learning about the world, learning about like different languages, like to an extent, like sometimes like on the more funny side, like swear words of other countries, the foods of other countries. There's so much to learn about other cultures around the world. And when I focus on just that interest and that I have towards this thing, it's enough to sort of help me overcome my shyness in the moment and yeah, just get conversation going, I guess. Yeah.
So I do admit it is a little bit easier for me just because whenever I talk, everyone's just like, "Whoa, is that an Aussie accent? Your accent sounds so cool." So I feel like people like naturally want to come and listen. So I do have it a little bit easier. But like the other guys, like I'm naturally on the more introverted end anyway. But exactly as Nathan said, like it's always really interesting to learn about other cultures and like med schools in other countries, different languages as well. So there's naturally a lot of things that you can just talk about and you can like compare different cultures as well. So it comes by really easily from my experience.
Yeah, because actually I also experienced the same thing. We have a lot of things to talk among medical students, so it's not that hard to make a new friends in a conference. And maybe, oh, I want to check you guys. What is your community service back then in AMSA in Singapore? What is? You still remember it or no?
I did silver homes, so that involved going to elderly homes and like uh maybe more less developed part of Singapore. And then we went into their homes. I think some of us painted their doors because like the paint was like falling apart, their gates as well, and did some cleaning for them inside their flats. Especially because some of these elderly were maybe due to their old age, they had some diseases or like, physical mobility impairment. So they might have found it more difficult to uh, you know, um, keep their home in proper condition and maintain the hygiene standards. So we went there just for a short afternoon to help out with some of this stuff.
And why did you choose that community service?
I chose it because I think it was among the options that involved a lot of interaction with the elderly themselves. So actually having a chance to talk to them one to one and like, just learn a bit about their life or like their lifestyle or like, you know, I think the two that I was speaking to, they actually spoke like I speak Chinese. So like there's different dialects in Chinese. So like from where I'm from in Hong Kong, we speak Cantonese. But then in different regions of China, they speak different dialects. And the dialects that those two elderly spoke was actually different from mine, but they understood my dialect. So it was more like a one-way conversation, but it was like despite that one-way conversation, like there were still ways for us to like sort of talk a bit about stuff. Like I would try and share something that I realized, and then they would sort of like nod or like give me hand signs to like signify that they understood what I was talking about or like found interest in what I was talking about. So it was just the very real like that connection that you form with people from having these face-to-face interactions is something that I looked for when selecting community service.
Oh, that's really cool. For me personally, my community service is, I kind of forget the specific name, but we're going to prepare all the stuff for teen pregnancy, that kind of activity. And as you said, it's really cool to engage with the people and get to know how they manage the teen pregnancy in Singapore. And how about you, the other of you guys?
So similar to Nathan, we also visited an aged care facility. But for us, it was a pretty small group, so only around 10 of us made the visit. And we ended up doing a lot of performances. So some of us danced, some of us sang in our local languages and to our local songs. And it was really cool as well, because even though like a lot of the residents didn't really know the songs and they didn't really understand the other languages, they were still able to clap along and like dance a little bit. So yeah, that was really cute. And a lot of them were happy to chat with us afterwards as well.
Okay, so from me, actually, I think to actually I kind of forgot on which side that I joined on the community service program, but I think the experience was actually unforgettable because we get to implement on again the action philosophy, and we get to feel like on we as medical students we are always learning about medical topics on our universities, but now we get the chance to give out on our abilities as medical students to the people who actually need it. So I think that actually gives us on mm, giving a really good and positive impact around not only around our own country but also around the world. So I think that's what actually feels like doing the community service program on especially in EMC Singapore.
Okay, so everyone has their own experience. And we're coming to the end. So, how can attending a conference contribute to your ongoing professional development? Nathan looks like he thinks so hard.
I think it's quite a hard question. Obviously, I've just started medical school, so in terms of like the what being a doctor actually entails is something I'm less familiar with, like, going through wards and like, the teamwork involved in a hospital, stuff like that. But I think uh more generally, the soft skills that we mentioned earlier in terms of like getting to know people and more in your confidence as a person, your conversational skills and just in general becoming someone that knows more about the world that we live in. I think all of these things are all useful to like not even just medicine, but to like any sort of field that you go into. Like these soft skills of conversation, social skills, and global awareness are all really useful in the long term, I think.
Okay, so from my side, I think for how the international conferences impacted on our professional development. Yeah, I think as same as Nathan, we get to interact with people, and I don't know, through that interactions we can also do some collaborations with other chapters that is very much something applicable around AMSA. So yeah, I think that's what's going. I think that's how international conferences can impact on our professional development.
Yeah, so the others have already spoken about, yeah, communication, establishing connections, collaborations. But I also think that it's a really good chance to travel as well. Because if you want to talk about professional development, like traveling for these conferences will help build up your independence. It's really good self-care as well. Because like who wants to study like every day during the year, right? Like it's good to take breaks and just take time for yourself as well. So like honestly speaking, like that in itself is really good for professional development as well. Like understanding how to balance like, social life, personal life with like your work and placements.
Okay. And our very last question. Is there any message you want to convey to motivate your members in your chapter to participate in our upcoming conference? But wait, do you know, guys, where our next conference will be held in July? You know?
In Japan, is it? A message for the members of AMSA who hasn't joined on this international conferences. I think a quote that I that me and my members have managed to give to all people around AMSA Indonesia is like being a doctor is a lifelong journey, but in AMSA it is a one-time experience. So you go get to feel these experiences forever because in AMSA we don't get to be a member of AMSA forever. There will be at some point where we will become an alumni, and that is why that mm, we have to try a lot of opportunities given in AMSA because there are so many opportunities that we can do and we can take that can that not only beneficial for us as future doctors, but for ourselves, for our connections, and for our further development. And I think that's why you should join an international conference.
Yeah, just echoing of that final point there, like I personally was very on the fence about going to EAMSC Singapore because like I wasn't presenting any research or anything, but I made the decision to go and I don't regret it at all. Like even if you don't do anything academically, it's still such a great experience. And for Japan specifically, I've got three things. So ramen, matcha, and Disneyland. So, I mean, tickets are really cheap. Like I got mine last week. Like I've already booked my tickets. So yeah, I better see you guys on the plane to Japan.
Yeah, so obviously, there's the traveling, and then there's what Carlo said about it, being like this one-time opportunity. Like, we aren't university students forever. There'll come a point in our lives where we're like, like 30, 40 years old and just, working day to day. Yeah, so I mean, make the most out of this chance, like while we still have it, I guess. And also, yeah, I think everything that we've talked about so far on this podcast so far is like you can take it for what it is, but to really understand what we're talking about and like the our experiences and how we felt during these conferences, the only way to experience that is to actually just go on these conferences yourselves. So you won't really know what we're talking about until you go. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your experience for the whole conference you have attended to. And maybe here's the end of our podcast today. Thank you and see you again in the next podcast.